All right, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Talking About Survivor. I am Christiana Ellis.
And I'm Mike Mateen.
Tonight, we're going to be talking about Survivor Game Changers Episode 12. I kind of tripped myself up a little bit when I was setting up the event for this episode because for some reason I was wanting to say it was 13 and then that didn't sound right because it's like, isn't 13 usually the last one before the finale? But I don't think we're there yet. And then I remembered that it's actually 12, but we've had a couple of times this season where they did 2 hours in a week. So that I think maybe messed up my numbering.
Yep, because this was
Should be the 12th hour.
12th hour. Yeah.
So, in any case, this is the one where Sierra got voted out, and I kind of accidentally spoiled myself again because I've gotten into a habit where I'm watching the episode not live as it airs on Wednesdays, but right after work on Thursdays. But recently, Dalton Ross's Twitter feed has been kind of spoilery on Thursdays. So 2 weeks in a row now, I have accidentally spoiled myself just by seeing his post on Twitter.
Huh.
This one was a little bit less obvious than before, but basically it still was enough. Basically, the headline said the legacy advantage backfires. And I'm like, less than 24 hours later, I feel like that's too spoilery for Twitter, personally.
Yeah. I think there's probably a way that you could highlight that the episode centers around the legacy advantage without giving away in which, that it backfired.
Yeah. Right.
Because that is obviously like the most interesting thing that happened and it is exactly what happened. It would have been better off to not have said anything.
Boy, though, it was just one of those things where it's different than what Debbie did, where she kind of just talked, almost made it happen for herself. This one is like, it's not as clear a connection. It was almost like this little Rube Goldberg contraption that ended up, basically, it almost wasn't Sierra's fault so much as telling Sarah gave Sarah a good idea that worked to trick Sierra. And that's kind of what happened more than... So I would say Sarah pulled off a cool move more than I would say Sierra screwed up.
I guess I would agree that it is more than, but I don't want to give Sierra a free pass because if you look at it, even outside of what Sarah chose to do, the good that she was hoping to come from it was that Sarah would want to keep her around, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Except that she incentivized Sarah, or whoever she told, to get rid of her.
Yeah.
Because she promised that she would give them something that only happens if she's out of the game.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a screw up if you incentivize someone to vote you out.
Mm-hmm.
I get there's, she's trying to gain trust and this and that, but I mean, this is a game for $1 million and you just told somebody, hey, if you get rid of me, I give you an advantage.
Yeah. Well, but the key is though that it's Sarah had to be able to do it without Sierra realizing that that's what happened. And that's
right, because she needs to not just straight up get rid of her because then she no longer receives the benefit.
Right, exactly. And so I feel like that's the extra layer. Now, I mean, obviously that's what happened. So I don't want to let Sierra off completely, but I think that her trying to reach out and use the knowledge of the legacy advantage of saying, I have this thing, if you're willing to keep me around and work with me, then it's a thing that we can use together at 6. With the added promise of if something goes wrong, you potentially still have it if you've been working with me. which opens her up for this vulnerability that is exactly what Sarah did, but what she was hoping for. I mean, I think it's really just a case like so many other times where she trusted the wrong person, but it was kind of a neat execution of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, because there's been times before where it was just came down to, oh, well, you told the wrong person your plan and they used it against you, right?
Yes. I am. Yeah, and I didn't want to discount Sarah's move at all either. I was just, I feel strongly that Sierra did mess up and not just because of the results. However, you're right, it was more complex than, yeah, she just did something stupid and got herself voted out. Like, Sarah had to go and then do a next, like you said, that extra layer to make it happen. So Sarah, and the reason I want to discount it is Sarah's definitely earning her stripes.
Yeah.
And in a way that was unexpected. I was worried, after she made the move to kind of put her stamp on flipping over, and then she started thinking about going back, and I was worried she was just going to just start doing stuff to do stuff, that she wasn't really thinking things through, and sort of settled into a groove.
Yeah.
At least, and I know she's got to carry this out till the end. But she's starting to make herself one of the favorites from an audience perspective.
Yeah.
And I don't think she has an illegitimate shot at winning this game if she makes it to the end, depending on kind of how she carries through these next couple of votes and who she ends up with. I think that there are people who respect her and like her and would be happy to see her win.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's part of getting votes,
I wouldn't have said that before this time.
No.
And I do think that she's not, like, of the people there, I think that there are other people who would be better in the final tribal council than her in terms of being able to sell themselves separate from, the product, so to speak, right? But that said, I mean, this was a hell of a play. And one of the things that's slightly risky about it in terms of something to brag about in the final tribal council is that you run the risk of, if you want to show off how cool your move was, there's a possibility that Sierra at least would not vote for you specifically because of that. So you could actually lose a vote by sharing.
Well, yeah, she has to walk the same line that she walked, and the execution of it is to make it seem like, yeah, it was so cool because, it was so hard because I needed you not to know, and I really did respect you. You had this tool that if I could do this right, I would get the tool, and I'm just really proud of how difficult that was because of how good of a player you are,
Yeah.
But if you look at sort of what she's on the, sort of on the bottom of the, she was sort of floundering, and she ended up kind of on the bottom of the group that went for Haley. And so she became part of the majority, but she wasn't really, she was kind of on the fringe. They didn't really treat her very well. And then she found that groove of, it was her decision to flip it and go after Debbie. And she was able to kind of, granted that one was a little bit easier because really all she had to do was flip, but she did dictate that. Then she was instrumental in the power power show off between Andrea and Zeke. Like, her choice and decision of what to do was part of what made that happen. Even though Andrea did make the decision on that one, like Sarah, she needed Sarah's backup with Suri. And then in this one, the manipulation of Sierra and her knowledge of this clue to actually make Sierra go. When, it looked like Andrea, the wind was blowing Andrea's way once Brad won, immunity.
Yeah.
For her to kind of dictate that and make the vote go the way that she wanted to, and also benefit herself afterwards. These last 3 episodes, she's been critical. So I'm not saying, Suri still has a much better, and that's where it's going to come down to the last episodes, because if she keeps it up, if she can get herself there, then she's got a shot. But there are people, like you said, I think some of the people that will be better in that final trial are also going to be better at getting themselves there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's going to have to beat them to get there too, and also make sure she's there without them.
Yeah.
It'll be tough for her to beat Suri. I don't know. Andrea's kind of in a weird spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's sort of seen as this like favorite in this like way that people like don't like her, to the point where like if she does make it, they might, I don't think they dislike her, but she's kind of like the villain in a weird way.
Well, she kind of got isolated socially at some point, and it's not obvious. It seems like back when that whole Zeke split happened, there's like the whole discussion of, you know, with Suri of like, can things be repaired with Andrea? And it's just like there must be more to that we didn't see, that just Andrea, when she went through that period where she was just acting very emotionally and reactive for a couple of days after all that happened, seems like she really severed some of her social connections with other people on the team. Like they're still like obviously acquaintances. They see each other all the time because they're at a small camp with each other. But she definitely seems to have lost. She doesn't have anyone that is a confidant anymore. It seems like she's kind of playing a very solitary game right now.
Right. But yeah, they still refer to her as like this huge threat when, I mean, yeah, I guess it's because she's won a couple of challenges, but.
Well, I think she's also, when she is using it, she's got a very strategic mind, and I think she can be very well spoken when she puts an effort into it. And so I think a lot of that is kind of what it comes down to, is that she's got a charm to her, but she hasn't kind of been working on that recently. She kind of got knocked onto her heels a little bit with Zeke turning on her as she sees it, and hasn't really kind of gotten back into an aggressive play yet.
Right.
But anyway, let's jump to the beginning of the episode.
Okay.
We start with Ty is asking about what happened. Brad calls it a blindside, and Brad is frustrated because, you know, a few of them voted for Ty because they thought that's what was going to happen, and so now Ty isn't gone, and they had to vote for him, and so that's awkward. So not only were they in the minority in terms of not knowing what the real plan was, but now they've also voted for someone who is still there, and that makes it doubly awkward. So it's kind of not a great position to be in.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I think it was great that they managed to get them to do that, because it, you know, by having them vote for Ty and then him not go, was hopeful.
Yeah. And Michaela at this point is complaining that she's just frustrated that after having made this 6, that everybody within the 6 told each other that they were going to be solid, and then immediately turn around and vote Zeke, and she's just feeling like she's in a position of not really being able to trust anybody. But at the same time, you know, discussing with Sarah and Suri, she's still kind of like, okay, but, you know, we're going to move forward. But she seems like she's done with the idea that you're going to have an actual alliance that really sticks together till the end.
Which is good that she's finally getting there, because this has been really frustrating me about her. You know, and I think I said a couple episodes ago where, you know, I even called out, I was like, wasn't, you know, Michaela the one who got voted out for like thinking through the strategy of this thing, like too far ahead? And yet she sort of missed that the deck is reshuffled, you know, like much better than the voting blocks. But that has benefited her. If if the one alliance had stayed together, they would have picked off her minority.
Mm.
If this new group had stayed together, there's no, that doesn't help her any. How does she then make a move to separate herself? How does she make her case? And so neither of these alliances were good for her other than it made it safe.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for a little bit. And this is a much better position because, while Sarah did make the move to put Sierra on the radar, like ultimately Michaela and Ty needed to make the decision to go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there's some work on Sarah's part to make that happen, but Michaela has now put herself in a position where her and Ty can work together to, make the outcome change.
Yeah.
And that's a better position for her, I think. And so it was weird to me that she was getting it took her getting frustrated for her to open her eyes to like how this was actually good for her,
Mm-hmm.
Even if she never admitted it, she's at least now playing within the way that it's set up and doing it correctly, so
Yeah.
But it just frustrated me that she kept getting so angry about that. Like, why does it matter?
Well, I had the feeling that part of it was that, like, this most recent 6 in particular, she felt like she liked that group of people and would be happy to have that be the final 6. And so she was kind of hoping that that plan could just stay in place, but obviously it didn't, work out that way. But, I think I don't think it was anything more complex than that. But in any case, she's discussing with Sarah and Suri and the idea of there are, some pairs remaining in the group, and they want to, break those up if they can. And Brad and Sierra are kind of one of the obvious ones. So then we jump to Sierra talking a little bit about getting burned by Sarah after having been friends previously, but wants to continue working with her. And this is where, as an attempt to rebuild the bridge there, tells her about the legacy advantage. And obviously we talked about this a little bit already, but this is where she's reaching out. She's trying to say, well, what is something I can offer to reforge the connection here? And, in some ways it just reminds me of when Zeke approached Sierra about possibly voting out Andrea or Suri, right? It's you told the wrong, it's a plan that could work if it was a different person. But in this case, it was Sarah's first instinct is to say, well, okay, maybe, but you've also now given me an extra reason to maybe, if I can get an advantage on you, then I will.
Yep.
But Sarah's first instinct coming out of that scene is to say, okay, well, if Sierra wants to work with me, then if we're trying to just split up that pair, then it's Brad. And that seems sensible. And that's where we are as we get to the reward. And of course, it's the loved one's reward. And once again, I saw someone do a poll on Twitter where they were saying, loved one episodes, love them or hate them. And I'm like, who doesn't love them? I don't, what's not to love? It's not only is there a lot of emotion and drama, associated with it kind of automatically, but also what's great is that it gives some insight and perspective into who these people are off the island. Right. And I think that's great.
Yeah. I always have fun with these.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I could see if you were like, maybe you didn't like breaking that fourth wall, essentially,
Yeah, I don't know.
Not exactly that, but maybe that some people feel that, but I don't understand why that would be an upsetting thing. You were like, man, I hate that.
Right. I mean, I can only imagine, like, when I try to imagine someone who doesn't like the episodes, what my brain goes to first is that they think it's cheesy or, like too sappy or sentimental. Like, but I don't know. I mean, to each their own, I suppose. But boy, I am. It's always better when they have these episodes.
Yes.
Um,
And I think
so
they know that too, because I remember
yeah.
when they were trying to like do it that weird way where they would like use the video phone and stuff
Yeah.
as the sponsor, and then they got to the point where it's like they would use the video phone, but then they would actually show up, even though so we had the sponsor taken care of, but we realized that was really lame. So our sponsor stopped sponsoring it, and now we can just do it the regular way.
I wonder how that decision-making process goes, but yeah, it's always better when they're there. No question about it. So we got
stuff is like it's not super prevalent now, so it almost seems weirder when they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they went to the what it was, I don't remember what it was. It was like a Target lounge or something, and they talked about how nice this outdoor furniture is.
Well, we had a Marshall's reward earlier this season.
That's what I was thinking. I was like Target but yeah, Marshalls.
Yeah, Marshalls
and I didn't know Marshalls had these great bathrobes.
Yeah. But then like in past seasons where like they you could win a car or something and they'd like actually drive one of the cars or something on the beach or whatever. And at least
be much more over the top. And so now it's like maybe like once a season we end up with like the Marshalls Lounge or
Yeah, that's not so bad. I think the worst ones were when they were like watching a movie, like some new. I remember they did Jack and Jill one season, and it's like, I don't really care about that movie or them watching that movie, especially when they have to pretend they liked it.
Yeah, there was a kind of a run of movies trying that. Like my wife watches The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. And there was one where that was like one of the dates was like watching. They got to see this new movie that's also out in theaters, and it, like kind of lame, like because they just sat there and like watched the movie, and then they had to like get interviewed about it.
Yeah,
it wasn't like a good date. It was just two people watching a movie.
But so in any case, though, we had Sarah's husband. Andrea's mom, and then there was this discussion about how I guess Andrea's sister died, I guess, when she was in school, and it's part of why she's here. And I feel like this is the first time I remember hearing about it, but it maybe came up in her first season or something.
Yeah, I didn't remember this either.
But yeah, so I wondered though a little bit of there's just a little ping in my brain of like, is this introducing a story element for later final tribal council discussion? I don't know, maybe not, but it felt significant to have not heard about it before. I don't know.
I mean, did she make it this far in her last season?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could try to look it up, but I don't have it ready at hand.
I can just kind of click on her while you're talking, while you're doing the intros, and see if it's obvious. Like, I'm not going to read too deep into it.
Okay. Well, so we also had Aubrey's sister and Sierra's dad, and Sierra's dad talked about having a thick skin in competition, which I felt like it's not terrible advice for a game like this, but it was also presented in a way that was trying to make it seem like it was super profound when I thought it was actually pretty ordinary advice. I mean, I don't want to this is not a criticism of her dad for giving ordinary but regular, good advice, but somehow the editing just made it seem like everything came to a stop for a moment while he's saying this profound thing about, you just try not to let things bother you too much. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, good tip, thanks. All right.
Yeah. So real quick, so Andrea definitely, because she was in the, she was second in the second to last voting,
Mm.
in the first one she was in, because she was part of Stealth R Us,
Oh, right.
and so she was the one that was voted out when I guess Rob played his immunity idol to take them to make sure he got to the end.
Uh-huh.
So she definitely would have been there for the family one.
Mm.
And then oddly, like in her Wikipedia page, it has in her early life, it just mentions that, she's the daughter of Royal and Linda Bulkey. She has younger sisters, Sabrina, Sharon, and Geraldine, parentheses, deceased. And that's like all it says about it. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know that
even on Wikipedia yet either. So, I mean.
I'm not even saying like it's this huge, super significant thing as much as I was just kind of surprised to hear about it and not having known it before.
Yeah, because she clearly would have had loved ones come on before. So,
yeah. But so in any case, we have Michaela's mom, who several people observed and I agreed was super cute. Troy Zan's brother, Ty's husband. And I want to just stop on Ty's husband just for a little bit because I feel like,
too, by the way,
huh?
Like they were super cute too. Like,
yeah. It was making me wonder because we've definitely had gay contestants before, but I couldn't remember if we've actually had, their partner be the loved one come on before. I couldn't remember seeing that before, but I don't know.
I don't remember either. So
these are the sorts of things that in theory, we could look up before we record, but
yeah, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean,
no, they were cute together though. Then we had Brad's wife, Monica, of course, which was notable because it's one of the first times or I guess probably the first time that the loved one coming on is actually also another player.
And a good one.
Yeah, she was great on her other season. And then, of course, Cerie's son, and we had the nice extra little thing of like she had to miss his high school graduation to be here, be on the show, but now he gets to come here. And that was super fun, too, just in terms of her showing him around the jungle and that sort of thing, him being a city kid. Like that stuff was fun.
Right, yeah, because that was part of the stuff that was kind of like fun about her and her first time.
Yeah.
And he was a good kid, too. Like, he was funny and like you could tell, he was, quote unquote, like mama's boy. Like they had a really tight relationship, but not in like a weird, like he was a normal, well-adjusted kid who just happened to really like his mom, and he was super enthusiastic. And I think that was one of the things I liked, as a whole, this loved ones, I was like, some of them, they're kind of forgettable. It's just like, okay, it's their loved one and they're happy. But I think everybody in this one, it was just Sue was cool. Like her son was really cool. Like Monica's obviously interesting. Even though like Ty and his husband and Troyzan and his brother didn't come along, still like Troyzan and his brother's relationship was really cool. To see like how they were like best friends, and it was just this one was really neat. I don't know. It was really happy and fun. And
well, see, like that again, it's just like that's why I love these segments. It's this positive emotion. You know what it reminds me of is the movie Dogma, which it goes way back. That was like what, 1999, I think, is when that came out. But the beginning of that movie has the two angels played by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck sitting in an airport talking about how it's the best of humanity because they get to sit there and watch people be reunited and be happy to see each other, which is also just interesting in the sense that it's a pre 9/11 airport, so people were allowed to come all the way into the gate and meet their loved ones at the gate.
Yes.
Anyway, though, just reunions, joyful reunions is the idea there. But so they were all divided into 3 teams of 3 to participate in the challenge. But it wasn't that much of a competition because Culpepper, Andrea, and Aubrey just got a significant lead pretty early on and then just powered through the whole thing, and no one else was even close. Yeah, I mean, it's like nobody else was even at the throwing the bags yet when they won. um, yeah, it was a pretty quick challenge too. It just seemed to go fast. But now, of course, this is always the strategy part of these challenges, which is, if you win, you get to pick other people to get it with you, and you run the risk of like, okay, reward your allies or risk making people mad at you, that sort of thing. So, you do the best you can. But so they get to pick first. They pick Suri and then Sarah, which leaves, as you said, Troyzan, Ty, and Sierra. And there's 4. Troyzan. Andrea was on the winning team.
Yeah, she was part of the winning. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, Sarah, Sierra,
Sierra,
Ty, and Troyzan. I noticed that just by coincidence, that in the teams they had Andrea and Aubrey, both A names, on one team, and then they had Sierra and Suri, both similar sounding, on another the same team, which doesn't mean anything except I noticed it while I was writing them down. So there's specific talk after those choices of Michaela being very disappointed to have not gotten to have her mom stay, but Andrea was kind of like, but give her a day and we'll be back on track, which might be true and is not necessarily the wrong way to think about it, but also doesn't sound great. Kind of just, it felt a little bit dismissive to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably just getting frustrated with Michaela's frustration.
Yeah.
And it wasn't right to be dismissive of it in this one, because she was, while she did eventually come back with them, it took, Sarah's maneuvering the information about the legacy advantage to make it happen.
Yeah.
And her and Ty having to make a decision that it was in their best interest. It wasn't her just coming back because she got over it. Like, right. Ty made a strategic decision to return. And this is where I said I was a little happier with Michaela, because, her frustration ended up leading her into the right mindset. So when she goes and she's left behind, which is why I think Andrea shouldn't have been dismissive, like, she is pissed off. So now she's open to these conversations with the other group, because she's like, we're not voting together, so I don't have to be part of the 6. I don't have to, and they clearly think I'm on the bottom of whatever semblance of an alliance there is, since they didn't even bring me with them and my mom. And I'm kind of mad at them about that. So I'm mad. And also strategically, I'm not in a great place right now. So why would it not make sense to listen to what these other people say? And then what she does is she gets herself in with, Sierra and them, and becomes, basically puts herself out there as, yes, I can be a part of this. And Ty's like, yeah, and I'm willing to potentially come back. I understand you voted for me, but that doesn't mean that we won't work together anymore. And then she leaves, and this is where her turning point for me was. She says, I have now given myself options, instead of, I was pissed off at them and now I can get back at them. I was pissed off at them, so I opened up my mind to who I could work with, and now I realized I have some options. And then when she realized Ty also was looking at it in that respect of, I'm not mad, I'm not happy with them since they decided that it was cool to vote me off just to save themselves. But I'm also not 100% with this other group either. So yeah, I have options too. We have options together. And she ended up in the right spot.
Yeah.
Because of this. So I was, like I said, just to sum it up, I was much happier with her leaving this episode than I was early on in it and prior to it, when she'd been just kind of like angry about everything, Right.
No, I agree. So we get here to the stuff with, the reward. We talked a little bit about Suri and her son already. It's a neat advantage for Brad to get to, do the the loved one strategy talk, but with someone who actually knows the game well and can really help with that element. And in fact, it was extra interesting that
settled on Brad, you've got to win immunity.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
but
she did not vote. I mean, that's what their solution was.
Well, it's kind of but at the same time, there she also did point out Michaela is the one that might flip because she wasn't chosen, and you should keep an eye on her. But yeah, I mean, Brad was in trouble anyway, so I think they assessed it correctly in that sense.
I mean, yeah, and we don't want to belittle it too much because when you think about Brad and his, relationship with Monica, like I don't want to say he idolizes her, but almost in a way he does. Like, I mean, it's a love, but it's like such a great like partnership love. Like he just really values her opinion to like such a level that's I'm really in awe of, and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But so even though he knows that that's the solution, by having her, who he trusts and knows is a great Survivor player and really respects her opinion, say that, hey, you really need to win immunity. Like I know we joked about it, but that might light a fire in him that maybe wouldn't have been there if he didn't have her confirmation that like, no, Brad, like you do need to go, even though that she doesn't have to say it like that. Like Brad, like in the movies, like Brad, you will win immunity. Like he takes it that way.
Yeah.
Because like, wow, I really don't have a choice. Like Monica's a great Survivor player, and she told me I knew I needed to win. Like then he's able to dig a little deeper, because he did play that. Like he was not this. I mean, we'll get to it, but he was not like the smoothest operator in this immunity challenge.
No,
he just literally willpowered his way to the end. So I don't want to discount it, even though it was a joke, like kind of joking, that it didn't give him that extra fire.
Oh, sure. No, I agree with you. And I mean, he came into this season talking about wanting to approach the strategic game by saying, what would Monica do? I mean, that's what he said early on. And so it's kind of, it's neat to see them connect again.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked it. Even though, like I said, I did find it amusing that it was like, that was her advice to immunity.
So, and this is, of course, where we also have Ty and Michaela connecting, bonding a little bit as part of being not chosen for this part of the reward. And Michaela starting to wonder, like, I've been trying to demonstrate loyalty as a way of connecting with people, but I'm feeling like they're taking advantage of me. And they're taking advantage of that, and I don't like that. I don't like that feeling, and then just like we can't help but say, yeah, no, that's the right reaction. That they absolutely are doing that.
Corgi.
Yeah. She's
sorry, the dog made a cameo.
Yes, those of you in audio don't get the Corgi cameo. But in any case, Sierra hopes that she can bond with Brad, Troyzan, Michaela, and Ty to make a new majority. That's her plan. And it's not a bad plan, really. I mean, from her perspective, that is an interesting plan. That we can't help but wonder, though, so does that mean that her approaching Sarah and telling her about the legacy advantage was kind of just an on the side back burner sort of thing?
I mean, I think what she wanted was exactly the opposite of what happened, is my thought. Was that she wanted that trust with her, not because she wanted Sarah like making big moves to like save her. She wanted her to influence which way things were going that would be a positive for her, and also to give her information that if she would need to operate with, if like she, needed it.
Right.
because she still realized that, like, because this happened pre-challenge.
Yeah.
So at this point, like, what she's trying to do is set it up where if they do decide to break up Brad and Sierra, that maybe Sarah is influencing them to go towards Brad.
Yeah.
That was what I believe was what. So that's why, yeah, I think it was a thing on the side that she did to, hey, just in case we can't, same with, it was similar to Brad's, like, yeah, Monica did point out if you can get Michaela and Ty on your side, then you have a majority again. However, you should probably just win immunity. And so this is Sierra's thing, like, hey, yeah, if we could get them, that's great. However, if that doesn't happen, I want them to vote for Brad, not me.
Right. Well, and I think also it's part of what we've talked about in the past, which is a necessary thing that you try to make sure that you've formed a relationship with everybody, even if they're not part of your current group that you're working with. Because certainly everybody left in the game now is going to be a jury vote at least. And if you can try to be on good terms with everybody, then that's going to just be a benefit all the way around, even if it's someone you're not working with specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at that point, with the people who are there, which is essentially the four of them that didn't get picked, we have Troyzan, Michaela, Ty, and Sierra all sitting there talking about this plan. And Michaela talks about feeling like Andrea has been disloyal, and they all agree that she's a threat. And it seems at that point that there's somewhat of an accord of like, maybe this is a workable plan. And that's where we get to the immunity challenge. And it was kind of neat. I was thinking this one looked like it was a new one, and then Probst confirmed it. It's nothing groundbreaking in the sense that it's kind of like a lot of these individual immunity challenges. It's a thing that's a little bit hard to do, and it's just last as long as you can. But yeah, just in terms of a neat visual and a thing that's not quite the same as what we've seen before.
Yeah, it was good. It lost some of the dramatic flair of, someone can just will themselves to do this for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Or the sort of Schadenfreude, I guess, of watching them like suffer on standing on like some tiny thing, or like, their toes or their shoulders, or something like. I mean, I'm not going to admit that, like, that's not, I'm not going to deny that is part of, like, there's sort of a weird, like, man, that looks like that hurts a lot, And this one, so this one didn't have either of those things. But so I don't know that it's like, oh man, this was a really awesome challenge, but it was, like you said, it was different, and it was interesting enough that I dislike it. Like I said, it didn't have some of that stuff that you kind of expect on these last ones. There was something grand about it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in there with like the stacking plates kind of thing. It's like, it's okay. It's kind of cool, but ultimately the only reason that thing's cool is because the plates all break at the end when you don't make it. Like,
right. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not really that fun to watch.
Yeah. But so it's a relatively fast-moving challenge. At one point, 4 people go out over the course of just 30 seconds. But it eventually comes down to Michaela, Brad, and Ty, and then eventually just Brad and Ty, and then Brad wins. And so he won when he needed to. And, I obviously... this is one of those challenges where willpower is absolutely a big factor, but it's also one where I don't want to say luck, but there's probably a trick to it that you would have no way of knowing in advance, probably. You know what I mean? Like little adjustments that you can try, and you don't know until you try it whether it's going to make you drop it.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of what was interesting to me about this challenge is that I saw similar to what you did. there didn't seem to be like this, massive like strategy or like, again, like those hanging ones, like, where Ty and Ozzy, the one where they competed for so long, like they were just so much better at it. It didn't feel like you could be that at this. But I felt in the end result on the other side, because that this was more of a willpower than a luck thing. That's how I took it, because like if you saw how Brad played it, like Brad didn't. It's not like he was just stoic there. Like he kept losing it and like just clinching up and like he was figuring like. But so I don't think he was figuring out any trick. I think he was just like literally just not letting it fall. Whatever adjustment, whatever extra strength I need to do to get this thing back in, I need to do. So while we saw the same thing, I think we ended up at two different conclusions. But.
Well, I wonder if this one more than most, if upper body strength is just a straight up advantage in this one, because you can just literally press the two handles in harder. And I don't want to make it say advantage like it's unfair. I just mean in terms of that being part of what helped him.
I think it definitely did. I mean, I think it's what allowed him to, readjust, because whenever it started to slip from him, he could pull from another muscle group or whatever, to kind of get it back in there and not let it wobble. But yeah, this one was, I think that was one of the, because we haven't seen this one a number of times, so we don't, and it went really quick, so it was really hard to parse out like what was working and what wasn't,
Yeah.
And to say, I mean, like Ty has no upper body strength, but he has proportional upper body strength.
Yeah.
Like he can climb things and he can hold on to the pole. Like, so he doesn't have a big upper body, but he has, like I said, that proportional to himself, Like I guarantee Ty can, go do 20 pull-ups, Yeah.
But so in any case, Brad wins, and Michaela specifically says, yep, he saved himself. We were talking about voting him out. It's interesting, though, that she says that immediately after having had that pre-challenge discussion where their discussion was Andrea. But I think...
Well, it's like now, she found she had options, and she realized that was probably a better option right now. Yeah.
And so in any case, though, with Brad having gotten immunity, that puts Andrea and Sierra both in trouble. And it's a pretty good week for everybody else, because
except
those seem to... Well, yeah, I was just going to say it seemed like the choices of who people might go for, the field narrowed really quick, and everybody else kind of didn't need to worry so much this time, because it seems like the targets kind of were selected very quickly.
Which you can see why they would want to do that, because, people, they want that measure of safety. However, I think that was good for Sarah, ultimately good for Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
As weird as it sounds, her being, having it delineate so fast allowed, it to be literally a choice between these two, and then you're evaluating a choice as opposed to like a number of things happening and people trying to settle on them, like kind of like Zeke's was. The Zeke one, there was like these other things happening, like this allowed,
Right. In this one, the uncertainty almost arose because the decision was otherwise made too early, and it allowed time for it to develop. Like, for example, we have Ty and Michaela talking about how both groups want them. One group, Andrea's group, is wanting to vote out Sierra and vice versa. But Ty and Michaela are saying, okay, well, which of those two do we want? And it seems like they initially agree on voting out Andrea. So, like, that seems like they have a valid plan that could work. But now enter the legacy advantage wrinkle, where Sarah is thinking, yeah, but if we could vote out Sierra without her realizing that I made that happen, then I get a legacy advantage, and wouldn't that be cool? And so it's and it's such a, I feel like this is almost more interesting than I expected that the legacy advantage could be, especially when it wasn't even really being, used. But it was such a weird, dangerous plan, I thought, because I thought that, for one, getting to vote out Sierra seemed like you could make that happen, but to be able to do it without being spotted, that's the trick, right? Because there's a limited number of people there. So if someone's flipping, how to not have it be obvious that it's her. And so she specifically tries to go butter Sierra up, try to make sure to say, like, okay, well, let's try to make sure this is a smooth relationship here still. And then Sierra tells her all about the plan for Andrea. So that's where Sarah comes in and says, okay, Ty, Michaela, you guys are the swing, right? Let's do this. And I love that. So we get to this tribal council. There's the different loved ones' decisions. Sierra, it's obvious to everybody that it's going to be Sierra or Andrea here. So Sierra says, well, Andrea is a bigger challenge threat. Andrea says that, but what about the underdog narrative? And then Sarah talks about having a solid group, and there's just lots of discussions that, like, I feel like all of the discussion in this tribal council doesn't linger in the mind, because unlike some of the crazy tribal councils we've had this season, this is all show talk. You know what I mean? Like, this is all say something that'll make Probst happy without revealing what you're really doing.
Yes.
That the whole tribal council was pretty much just that this time. But it was interesting to have it come
poker face.
Yeah. Well, and then they came down to a very fine point at also where they're essentially saying, Andrea and Sierra are both saying, okay, we've narrowed down that someone is lying to one or the other of us, because what I think is true can't be the same, and what you think is true are mutually exclusive. So someone is lying, and how to know which? Well, we'll have to vote, I guess. And so sure enough, I suspected before we saw it happen that Sierra was going to guess what had happened and maybe give the advantage to someone else, but nope. She says she gives it to Sarah, even as she says, I hope you didn't vote for me. So, boy, we talked about it again at the beginning, but it was just kind of, it's this weird little thing. It happened right at the beginning of the episode that, a little butterfly effect that changed the course of the overall vote in an unexpected way. Because I think it required, she exposed a vulnerability, but then it also required skilled play from Sarah to make it happen this way.
Yes. I agree. And then the other thing that, I think, we talked about it a little with Michaela and Ty. Ultimately, I feel like they made the right decision, because the reason that they were voting for Brad originally, because Michaela stated that, before he went in, like, hey, Brad just saved himself, even though she had given herself the options, as she said, was because they wanted to break up, Brad and Sierra. Yeah. Now that she and Ty have this new voting block, and again, it could be tenuous, but in her mind, she has to say, okay, we've now established ourselves as this voting block that can go do whatever, we don't want to have another set of two
Right.
Like, we want more individuals, because if we're going to work together, more individuals is good for us. So I think they made the right decision in that breakup of Brad and Sierra. The other thing is that I think I said it earlier, like, I'm not convinced that Andrea is this, like, massive threat that they keep making her out to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she clearly gets the game, like her and Sierra, but so did Sierra. Like, it's because they're smart and good at this game that they were able to figure out within the discussion, like, well, it's pretty much one of us, like, because they know how it works. So yeah, but knowing how it works and being decent at some challenges is not all it takes. And there's a number of other people who are also in that boat. So I just don't think Andrea is this, like, thing you had. I think the Brad Sierra duo was more important to break up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ultimately, I think Sierra probably would have flipped on Brad at some point, to get rid of him. But you don't want to take that risk. So
right.
You want, I'm trying to think of a metaphor with the reshuffling of the deck, but
take out the jokers.
Yeah, you want to take out the jokers. You want to make sure that it's
counting
like
cards.
In blackjack, you want to make sure there's more. You want to make sure that I can't think of it. The deck you can play a lot more hands. Maybe there's more jokers this way. Less like aces. I don't know. But I feel like that, to use that metaphor, though, that the deck is easier to reshuffle when there are less people who are directly connected to each other.
Yes.
And now that everybody has admitted that this is pretty much how it's going to go down, it was the right move for them to make sure that this thing moves forward in a way that basically sets up every man for themselves, with everybody having a few little bonds. And now is where, and I'm happy about it as a viewer, because I think people like Suri, Sarah, now, I wouldn't have thought it before, Andrea and Brad are all going to thrive in this environment, and we're going to see some really good play out of them. Because now there's really not like, oh, we need to stick with our majority, or we need this. It's like, okay, we're coming down to the end. What's best for me, and how do I go make it happen? And all of them, like, now that Sarah's established that she can do that, all of them can play that way. And then when you're looking at like Michaela and Ty, who maybe aren't as good at that part of it, they have now established themselves as a voting unit, which is good for them, because as these people are trying to figure out what to do, like, they get to make some decisions about who they assist and who they don't and what's best for them. Also interesting. Troyzan is just kind of there, just like Troyzan is always kind of there.
Aubrey is
something
kind
offensive
of
about him.
Yeah.
But,
Aubrey is overdue for a move.
She's been forgettable this season. I keep forgetting about her. Like, I think that this could benefit her, because this now puts her in a position where she is less in, because she's always been kind of reeling. Like, she's always felt like she's on her back heels. Because these things, like, ever since the one vote that really, like, knocked her down, and she was like, that's why these guys are game changers or whatever. Like, that was the thing that happened and she's been reeling ever since. And
see, I had the impression she's just playing a below the surface game right now.
That's because I think she's
staying under the radar.
I feel like she's afraid to, like, step up and, like, pop her head out of the ground, because it's been so dangerous up there that I think yes, I agree. She is choosing to do that, but I feel like she's doing it out of fear rather than out of it being the best thing for her. And so now, if we kind of get some of those big, pieces out, like the alliances and I think she has more room to proactively maneuver now, and I'd like to see that.
You might be right. I don't feel like I sense the fear in her the way you do, but I will definitely say she seems to be biding her time, and I think she might be waiting too long. So she definitely needs to step it up and make some moves if she's going to be able to sell herself at the end.
Yes. Because she's starting to get into a point where, like, she's becoming I would love to take Aubrey to the end, because she's not going to get any votes. Even though she's smart and does know how to play. She really, I mean, she just hasn't put her stamp on anything, and that's just, unfortunately, that's the way it has to go. Like, and she can't make the same case that Suri can, where like, we haven't seen her really operate behind the scenes like Suri has. Like, Suri hasn't put her stamp on anything in like a way that like puts her like out there, but she certainly has a case and can make it. That she has, made a lot of these things happen.
Definitely.
And not even in just in subtle ways. Like, she has overtly made some things happen. So,
but yeah,
I'm excited. So
yeah, we'll see. So I guess that does it for this time. Thank you everybody for listening and or watching. I guess we didn't talk about the preview for next time. Looks like Michaela blackmails Brad for something idol related. Maybe just searching for the idol, maybe finding something.
Yeah.
In theory, I feel like I'm trying to remember because Ty has 2 idols, right? Do we know where a third one is? I feel like, oh man, this is where let's see. I feel like I thought Andrea had one at some point, and am I maybe completely misremembering? She would have had it for a long time. I don't think that's right. So Ty still has 2.
So somebody got so JT got Ty to use his first one before he even got the other 2.
Right. Yeah, I feel like I'm not sure where the third one is, or if we even know for sure if there is a third one anymore.
Well, I think weren't there always just 2, and then Ty ended up.
Well, because they were in 3 tribes at one point, and it seems plausible that there was an equivalent idol at each of the 3 camps.
Well, we'll find out. I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
There is not another. There, at least none that we've seen. There are not other ones out there.
Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking of Andrea, but anyway.
Andrea definitely didn't have one, or she would have.
Yeah, no, I agree that it doesn't make any sense that she would have played it. But yeah, so in any case, Michaela is blackmailing Brad about something, and Suri has a tough decision. That's what we get for next time. But
yes, and we're. I think that they've just fallen into this standard. We'll have a regular episode next week, and then the 3 hours the next Wednesday.
Yep, and we're still numbers heavy because we only just went from 9 to 8 this time. So if we only lose one person next time, that's 8 to 7. And so starting the finale, I feel like usually they start the finale with 5. Yeah. So who knows what's going on there?
They have interesting titles for the next 2 episodes.
Oh, yeah?
Next episode is Parting is Such Sweet Sorrow. So maybe multiple people get parted.
I don't know.
And the finale is called No Good Deed Goes Unpunished.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I mean, they don't give anything away. They just have kind of interesting names to them.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. So thank you everyone for listening and or watching, and we'll be back next week to talk about Survivor.
Yay.
So, good night, everybody.
Good night.